We welcome to the program Senator Mitch McConnell joins us here on 89 WLS. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
Good morning.
Nice to have you with us. How did the event go last night for our junior Senator Mark Kirk?
Well, very well. There's a lot of enthusiasm for Mark. It's a great comeback story. He's a tough guy who's doing a great job for Illinois and for America.
I'll never forget when he finally recovered enough to return to the Senate, that event going up the steps of the U.S. Capitol with, I believe, Senator Manchin was on his arm. I know all the senators were there supporting him. Just to reiterate on that, all politics set aside, and it's an extraordinary comeback story of, just a kind of inspirational story for all of us.
You bet. I mean, every single member of the Senate on both sides of the aisle was there to watch Mark come up the Capitol steps, which he had promised he would do, and he did do. And in addition to that remarkable comeback story, he is also the leader in the Senate on an issue that's very much in the news these days, and that's the Iran nuclear.
I wanted to take you in that direction. I've been reading extensively on this deal, and I believe that there is. A lot of people would say that Republicans should not be interfering in something that is, generally off the president's desk. But in this case, no deal will be better than this terrible deal. Your opinion?
Well, look, I mean, at the very least, Congress ought to have some involvement in it. The president wants it to be an executive branch only agreement with one of our biggest adversaries in the world. And at the very least, we believe that the deal should be submitted to the people's representatives, those of us who were elected across the country, and we have a bill that will come out of the Foreign Relations Committee this week, which would require the bill, the agreement to come to Congress for support. The president opposes that. Obviously, he doesn't want us involved in it. Really, I don't know what he's concerned about, because if it's a good deal, it'll probably be confirmed by the Senate. But right now, he has no plans to submit it. If the deal blows up, Mark, by the way, has another bill that would ratchet up the sanctions on the Iranians. That's the one thing we know that actually made a difference. The sanctions that were currently imposed by Iran, on Iran, and by the United States and others, was a result of a Mark Kirk bill. In other words, what Mark got through the Senate is what brought the Iranians to the table in the first place. We know sanctions will work, and if this deal goes forward, it ought to be sent to Congress for approval. If it doesn't go forward, we ought to ratchet up the sanctions further.
Senator Mitch McConnell joining us on 89 WLS. What about the discrepancy here? The Iranians say, no, the deal is that all sanctions are lifted day one, and the president said, no, that's never been part of the deal. Why? Is there something lost in translation here?
Both sides, I think, are spinning it. What it tells you is, whatever the deal finally is, if it finally comes together, ought to be submitted to Congress for review. And that's what the bill that will come out of the Foreign Relations Committee this week would require. Hopefully we'll be able to get enough votes to override the president's veto if a veto is indeed what he finally intends to do.
Talking here with Senator Mitch McConnell, if the Iranian deal is a disaster, how bad is the Cuba deal that the president is moving towards now in your mind?
The what deal?
The relationship with Cuba. After 50 years, the president's saying it just doesn't work.
Look, I don't think we ought to be normalizing relations with Cuba unless they change their behavior. And so far, it looks as if they don't intend to do anything differently. They're still rounding up dissidents and arresting them. They still have a number of fugitives from this country in their country that they've not returned. Before we start normalizing relations with Cuba, I'd like to see what we get out of the deal. In other words, what behavioral changes does the regime down there intend to enact?
I wanted to get your thoughts on Hillary Clinton. I know it's a big surprise to you, but she declared her intention to run for president over the weekend. I think the Republicans, the Republicans have a terrifically deep bench here for 2016. Marco Rubio will declare later today. Obviously, Jeb Bush is in. Ted Cruz and Rand Paul already have shown their hand. The Democrats seem, I'm asking you a political strategy question here, they seem to be woefully thin on the bench if, in fact, Hillary, for one reason or another, doesn't make the run.
Oh, I think she's in.
Well, she's in, but if something happens, I mean, if she has to withdraw.
Well, I don't know what would happen, but I'm assuming